Edtech unicorn PhysicsWallah has launched their own school. Now, this isn't just some offline learning center. This is actually a school. It's going to be affiliated with CBSE, and it's going to provide education to students from pre-nursery up to class 7. They're going to have 400 students in their inaugural batch, and at first an Edtech, right, technology startup venturing into offline schools seems like an odd choice. But it actually makes perfect business sense for PhysicsWallah. See, most of the students that PhysicsWallah gets are from class 6 to class 12, and then you also have other paid courses for different exam preparations. And what this means is that PhysicsWallah doesn't really have any way of reaching students before class 6. But by opening a school, PhysicsWallah now is able to reach those students, and also it kind of acts as marketing for them so that later on in life, students can convert more fully into the PhysicsWallah ecosystem. But apparently for Alak Bande, there's actually a more simple and fundamental reason why they're setting up this school, and it's that by the time students reach class 7 and they're able to get into PhysicsWallah, they've missed out on some really important concepts. And the reason for this is that Indian schools are oftentimes more focused on rote learning than the overall development of students, and that's why Alak wants to change this with his school. He wants to make education all-inclusive and focus on the overall development of his students by introducing financial literacy and even entrepreneurship. Now, on a related note, EdTech startups, which of course were all mainly focused on online initially, have now found a new love for offline business. Even Unacademy has been growing their offline centers at a rapid pace, while their online business has actually been shrinking. Now, one of the biggest reasons why EdTech startups and startups more generally fail is because they're unable to raise enough capital for their venture. All right, next up in the news, in the United States and in a lot of other countries around the world, CAR T-cell therapy has been a godsend for cancer patients. But here's the thing, this cancer treatment was never available in India, at least until last year. So just recently, a cancer patient by the name of Dr. VK Gupta, who had a failed bone transplant in 2022, well, he's the first Indian patient treated with this indigenously developed CAR T therapy to be declared free of cancer cells. He was treated at the Tata Memorial Hospital, and the entire treatment cost him 42 lakh rupees. Now, at this point, you might be wondering why we're talking about this CAR T-cell therapy on a startup-focused channel, but I have a good reason for this, because this indigenously developed CAR T-cell therapy that I'm actually talking about here was developed by ImmunoAct, an Indian biotech startup. So they're calling the therapy NextCAR19 therapy, and even though 42 lakh rupees does seem like a lot of money, this is actually really cheap compared to the United States and other developed parts of the world where it costs about 3 to 4 crore rupees. And also, if you want to learn more about ImmunoAct's innovative cell therapy and more such Indian startups that are in the biotech space, we actually recently covered them in our top 10 Indian biotech startups video. It didn't get a lot of views actually, but it's definitely worth watching. You can find a link to it in the top right corner of your screen. All right, next up in the news, now that we've talked about a bunch of positive stuff, let's talk about something a little bit more controversial. So on the 30th of January, Trambu Sports, a Kashmir-based willow bat manufacturer, pitched on Shark Tank India's Season 3, and they even received a deal from Aman Gupta and Piyush Bansal. But soon after getting this deal, they got sued by the Cricket Bat Manufacturers Association of Kashmir, and according to this LiveMint article, the association disputed some of the claims made by Trambu Sports regarding their bats. According to the association, Trambu Sports portrayed itself as the exclusive producer of Kashmir willow bats, a claim they have disputed and said that it damaged the reputation of its members, resulting in a loss in business. And so they've sought 100 crore rupees in compensation and also a public apology from Sony Pictures Networks and Trambu Sports founders. All right, next up in the news, I wanted to give you guys an update on the situation with Paytm. There's a lot of stuff going on. It's kind of hard to keep track of, and the dust definitely hasn't settled, but here's what we know so far. So first of all, the RBI is not happy with Paytm, and probably they're not going to be giving Paytm any extra time to comply, as they've already given them plenty of time according to the RBI. And you can see right here what the RBI's deputy governor has to say about the whole issue.
This is a supervisory action on a regulated entity for a persistent non-compliance. Second, such supervisory actions are invariably preceded by months and at times years of bilateral engagement, where we not only pointing out the deficiencies, but also provide more than adequate time for them to take corrective action.
So now Paytm is left with really no option but to find a way to migrate their 3 crore merchants, out of which 60 lakh use Paytm Payments bank accounts for their payments, to different banks. And according to this Money Control article, this might be a huge challenge for Paytm. See, these accounts, once migrated to different banks, will all have to do their KYC from scratch. And that's going to be a lot of time and effort for any bank willing to do that, but also for customers, they're going to need to be really patient with Paytm to actually want to stick with them. But it's even worse because the RBI has already flagged issues with KYC for Paytm Payments Bank for the last 4 years. All right, next up in the news, a real quick one here. After Paytm, it's PB Fintech, the company which owns Policy Bazaar and Paisa Bazaar, which according to this Money Control article is under the income tax's radar for regulatory lapses and KYC non-compliance. And this news is coming to us just a week after PB Fintech reported their first profitable quarter. But again, that was just a quick one. Let's move on now to Ola Electric's Break All Barriers event. They live streamed this event on YouTube and announced some pretty ambitious targets. But before we talk about targets, let's talk about vehicles. So they announced the latest version of their Ola S1X series of electric scooters. It's the 3 kilowatt-hour variant, which is priced at 90,000 rupees and has a range of 143 kilometers per charge. Now, one thing that you probably know about Ola Electric if you go on social media is that people's biggest complaint about the company is their service. And that's despite the fact that Ola Electric claims to have over 400 service centers across the country, but now the company is claiming that they're going to be increasing that number to 600 in the next 2 to 3 months. Of course, in my opinion, to win back trust, Ola Electric is definitely going to need to make sure that their service is top-notch. But apart from service centers, the company has also announced that they're going to be increasing their charge points by 10x from just 1,000 charge points to 10,000 by next quarter. That means that this should all happen by July of 2024. Now, keep in mind, these are not going to be hyperchargers, just fast chargers, but they're still going to be able to give you 50 kilometers of range in just 23 minutes of charging time. On top of this, Ola Electric is also going to start offering 8-year warranties on their batteries, which they claim is an industry first. Obviously, Ola Electric has made big promises in the past and then failed to deliver, so we're just gonna have to wait and see. All right, next up in the news, for years, customers of Ola and Uber have complained about hikes in fares during peak hours. And now it looks like the Karnataka government has listened to its citizens and changed this. So according to this Morning Context article, previously the Karnataka government had a pricing system where cab aggregators could charge a minimum and a maximum fare per kilometer, which companies like Ola and Uber use to increase charges during peak hours. But with these new changes, the Karnataka government has removed that clause and fixed a price for each kilometer that companies can charge based on the vehicle. This essentially does away with surge pricing. So say for a vehicle that costs between 5 and 10 lakh rupees, the fare is 100 rupees for the first 4 kilometers, which is the base fare, and then post that, any distance that's traveled, they can only charge 24 rupees per kilometer. And this fare per kilometer increases as the price of the vehicle increases, going up to 32 rupees per kilometer for vehicles priced at over 15 lakh rupees. Now, the one exception here is that these cab aggregators can also increase fares by 10% for cabs booked between 12 and 6 a.m. All right, now let's move into the funding news segment of today's video. So Indian startups raised a total of $169 million this week, which is significantly higher than last week's $76.5 million. So first of all, we have a company that I've been watching closely and I'm really excited about, Bengaluru-based electric two-wheeler manufacturer River, and they raised $40 million in their Series B round. And by the way, this company was started by former Ultraviolet employees. Then we have New Delhi-based e-commerce brand Global Bees. They acquire smaller D2C brands and then help them to scale their businesses, and they raised $18 million in a debt round. After that, we have Hyderabad-based smart home automation startup Qs, and they raised $12 million. Next, we have Mumbai-based Kyo, which is a platform built specifically for senior citizens to help them with on-demand assistance with things like bill payments or organizing curated travels or even organizing games for them to play together, and they raised $4.2 million in their seed round. After that, we have Bengaluru-based Appliance.ai, and I've actually had the pleasure of meeting the founder of this company and eating food created by one of his appliances. So they make smart cooking appliances that can automate the process of cooking food, and they raised $4 million in their seed round. And then finally, we have Gurugram-based Control Z, which sells premium refurbished smartphones through their platform, and they've raised $3 million in their seed round. All right, that is all the startup news that I have for you guys this week. I really hope that you enjoyed the video. I'm not sure if you noticed, the audio might be a little bit different. Basically, I'm recording this in my car because I'm on a road trip, and also I'm getting over a cold, so that's why my voice might sound a little bit different. Thanks so much for bearing with me though, and I will catch you in the next one.